of the occasion. And this occasion is about commemorating the sacrifice that several sugar workers made in the face of harsh and unbearable conditions in the sugar industry for the rights of others. And why is it so fitting that we remember this occasion? It is because today the industry that so many people sacrifice to build together, people of all races, but predominantly Indo-Guyanese, across Guyana, that industry is facing its worst time. And it is not facing its worst time because nothing better could have been done. It's facing its worst time in our post-colonial history, largely because we have a vindictive government and they decided to bring sugar to its knees. We have pointed out on several occasions about what they could have done to address the sugar industry because it was undergoing difficulties. We urge that a feasibility study be done. We urge that a social impact assessment be done. We urge that they look at a diversification study. And only upon securing the results of those studies should they take any action. But what happened? The government decided to ignore that course of action and decided to close the estates because they believe that somehow it will assist them in their political fortunes. And I've spoken right here about what they hope for. They probably hope that the sugar workers would become disillusioned, they would flee this country, and that they will change the electoral demographics of this country. But what they have done effectively is to put 11,000 people, 7,000 directly, and another 4,000 who depend on sugar for a living out of a job. That's over 50,000 Guyanese in a population of about 800,000 people without knowing where the next meal would come from, how they're gonna earn enough to send their children to school. In fact, we have seen a massive increase in poverty in the sugar belt, and people now can't find, they have to fend once again for food. And we are in 2019, when we thought that hunger had been a thing of the past, the old PNC days. And so, they just don't care. And you must be concerned about the occasion today, because it's not just the fact that they have closed the industry, but you have seen the wanton corruption with the assets of the sugar industry. In today's newspaper, they have where the SPU sold some of the towers belonging to Gaisupo, assets that were not transferred to NISIL, to one of their party hacks of Bobby Vera for a pittance. And this is not unusual, the fact that it is reported today, because for the last few weeks we have exposed how they're stripping the assets from those estates that they said they want to privatize, because they transfer all the assets to NISIL, and how they're stripping the assets, moving the assets from inoperable list from the operable list, assets that are good working tractors, etc., and put them as scrap and then selling them off to PNC officials for a pittance, $200,000, $300,000 for a tractor. This is happening at Rose Hall. And then they plan to privatize the industry. And Enmore, the comrade said, right here at Enmore too. And it's happening every single part of the industry. And the people in Nisil and Gaisuko are all guilty. And let me tell you something. They used to talk about putting PPP people in jail. When the government changes, we're going to investigate every single one of those acts. And then you'll see who goes to jail. Then you will see. But it's happening every single day. And by the time the government, the good changes, they're making sure that it will become harder to reopen their estates. Already at Wales, they've stripped all the assets, so it would be impossible to reopen Wales. We'll have to find alternatives for those sugar workers there. They'll have to receive help directly from the government. And what they've done, recently they start selling out the land at Wales in secret acts to some of their supporters. A few days ago, Gaisuko complained that they didn't know who Nisil privatized the stripping of the assets the scrap iron sale to. Until now, nobody in Guyana knows about this except in Harman and the head of Nisil, who got the multi-billion dollars contract for the sale of the scrap iron at Wales. This is what is happening with regularity, and it passes off. Half of the media in Guyana doesn't even pay attention to it. If we had sold a pin without going to tender, they would be hung in the People's Progressive Party. But you don't see it every day. Billions of dollars of state assets are being transferred to private individuals, particularly from the sugar industry, and we do hear nothing about it. So that is what we're here to celebrate the sacrifices of the Enmore Martyrs for the development of the sugar industry and for workers' rights. And sadly, we're presiding over this situation where sugar is under assault and its assets, workers' assets, assets that belong to the state, are being given to private individuals for a pittance. So we have to ensure that that changes. The second thing, but many of you may not be so concerned about me talking about the sugar industry, because the biggest preoccupation today in the minds of every single Guyanese, people who support us as well as those who don't support us, their worry and their concern is about what will happen next Tuesday. What decision will be made by the Caribbean Court of Justice? Because that decision will be a defining decision as to how quickly we will fix this problem. And what's happening in sugar and all the other sectors can only be fixed by a change in government, because the nature of this government is one that doesn't focus on building wealth, on expanding welfare, on creating jobs, on improving the lives of people. It's focused mainly on vindictiveness and personal gathering for a cabal of a few individuals. And so the only way we can remedy this situation is changing the government. And right across Guyana, people want that. When we walk the streets, and our activists have been traveling every single place across Linden, walking house to house, delivering a flyer, saying what the PPP will do in the next government and how they're included. Whether it's in New Linden or even in the Gulf of Buxton, at the back of Buxton, or in Port Morant, or Enmore, or in the hinterland in Lethem, or Deep South, or North Rupunoni, or in Region 1. Every single place our activists have been on the ground. And throughout the country, there is one cry, one question that people ask us: when will we have elections? They can't wait to get rid of this government. They can't wait to get rid of this government. So don't worry about fake polls and all of that stuff. We'll talk about that in a moment. But for us in the PPP, we will keep working hard to ensure that that outcome is inevitable. And largely because of our plans for the future, our track record of change, even in the face of difficulties, is very evident for everyone to see. And they withstand scrutiny and the test of time. And when compared to the record of non-achievement of this government, then people can see starkly which party is the better party for Guyana. And so I think that has been proven over and over and over again in the past several years. So that has to happen. But the decision on Tuesday will decide the pace at which that change will take. And if the decision goes in our favor, trust me, all of us will have to keep pressuring the Granger government to hold early elections. We'll have to go back on the streets. We'll have to get the international community to put pressure on them. We'll have to do every single thing to ensure that they hold early elections, that they don't use GCOM as an excuse because they're scared of elections. They have seen on the ground what we have seen too, because they have gone on the ground too, and they have faced large-scale rejection, even in communities that they were strong in. Because suddenly they have a newfound interest in all the areas they've been neglecting for 4 years now, because elections are coming. So they've been hearing too what we've been hearing, that people are fed up with them. And so they're fearful of elections. That's why, in spite of this poll that says Granger is younger than Irfan Ali, that they're afraid, and nicer looking and everything else, that they're afraid to go to elections. They're afraid. So if that outcome comes our way, so on Tuesday, on Wednesday, get a boots like Harry Gill, a colorful boots like Harry Gill, and get ready to walk the streets. We're gonna put the pressure on them, the squeeze on them. And if it goes against us, which will be perverse, it's not a problem too, because as a seasoned political party, we have to be ready for everything. It just means the elections would be delayed a few months more. So I know people say, God, another year of these people, and that's the mood across Guyana. But we would still be campaigning, we'd still be working, and one thing has to be inevitable. Every single Guyanese must play a role in getting rid of these people. So it's within a few months or 1 year. That's your choice on Tuesday we'll face. 1 year or a few months. But one thing is clear, we have to get rid of them. And so that's what I wanted to say to you tonight. Because I know Tuesday, many of you will be glued to the radio or the television, awaiting that critical decision that you've been asking us in the People's Progressive Party about what's happening. And let me tell you, the oldest political party, Chedi Jagan's party, we can't just give up hope if the decision goes against us. We expect it to go in our favor. All the arguments are solid in our favor. We expect that. But anything could happen in this life, And therefore, we'll just be as strong and just as ready, whatever the outcome is on Tuesday. We'll be as strong and ready. So, all right, I know that. We're not going to lose it. So, comrades, let me talk a bit about this poll that Granger commissioned, the APNU commission. So, clearly, when you do polls, you keep the information for yourself. So, as I said recently at my press conference, people, and as the pollster himself pointed out, people may not have a bad view of Granger. They may think he's a nice old man. And many people don't think that. But they will never vote for him. Because the critical issues that you have to poll a country on are the issues that have to do with, one, are you trustworthy? That's the first thing. Can we trust the government or the president when he makes a promise? And so, Granger in 2014 and 2015, and Nagamootoo and the other cabal promised university education will be accessible to all. They've increased the cost of university education by 35%. Granger promised that 1 year after people graduate from the University of Guyana, we have him on tape, they will secure a job. Irfan Ali pointed out, we have lost over 30,000 jobs. So, all across Guyana, they went and they spoke about jobs. Now he wants us, as you know, to do cook up rice and planting chips. That's the jobs of the future. That is what he promised. So we can't believe them on creating jobs. They promised, there used to be a big slogan next to the hospital, vote APNU AFC to end infant and maternal mortality. Infant mortality has skyrocketed. Maternal mortality has skyrocketed at the Georgetown Hospital. Now we have a shortage of nursing staff, doctors. We have trained over 1,000 doctors. Many of them want to leave because they moved them out of contract employee into the establishment. Many of them didn't want to go there. Everyday shortages all across Guyana, everywhere, of basic drugs. Secondly, they talk about housing people. They failed on every single promise. Not one single new house lot have they developed in, this is their 5th year in office. Not one, not a single one. Every piece of land that they have redistributed was developed by the PPP that they repossessed and gave out again. They failed on that too. They talk about crime, how they had all these ex-chiefs of staff and ex-commissioners of police supporting them, and that the crime rate, they had a plan to fix the crime rate. Granger said the PPP was bluffing. He got a report from a man named Russell Combe that he'd end all crime in Guyana. That was several years ago. Crime is ravaging the people of the country now, and they choose to ignore it. They say it's not so. People getting killed, getting robbed every single day, and more criminals are being weaned into the system, and they ignore it. Look at what the hospital itself, Georgetown Hospital, had to say to their staff. If you're walking around in our compound, make sure you don't walk alone. Don't wear jewelry. This is to the staff. Don't walk at night in the hospital compound. And for them, everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. They failed on that too, on their promise. They failed on infrastructure. They said they will clean up corruption. You heard about them. They used to talk every single day about how PPP is corrupt. The Marriott is corrupt. They'll make it into a hospital. The airport is corrupt. The Hope Canal is corrupt. Everything used to be corrupt under the PPP. Well, if we hadn't built that Hope Canal, all the areas, every rainy season, the Region 5 would have been flooded out, and Georgetown and the whole East Coast would have been threatened. Now it's so easy to just blow the excess water into the Atlantic anytime the Conservancy is threatened. Marriott is now growing so great that they want to expand it. It's not adequate. The airport, they've reformulated with a corrupt act and now reduced the scope of the airport. Every single thing. And on a daily basis, you see ministers who are directly corrupt. There's nothing. Look at Cathy Hughes. Look at Patterson. Corrupt every single day. Why do you think they will not sue us? Because they can sue me if I call them corrupt. They can go to the court and sue me, but I dare Cathy Hughes or Patterson or many of the others to sue me about this. Because we have evidence now. We're not just talking off the top of our head every single day. So you poll that trustworthiness. You poll trustworthiness. And this government is untrustworthy to keep its promise. And many people today, when they go around the country, they believe that their new set of promises, a whole new set of promises, if they believe those promises, then something is wrong with them, not us, if they believe those promises. So that's the first thing. If you poll them on crime, they can score low. You poll them on job creation, they would get a 0. If you poll them on healthcare, on education, on promise to the Amerindian people to accelerate the land titling program, 0 you've done, although we left them with over $2 billion to that. None of those things. So what are you going to poll on? Whether Granger is slimmer than Irfan, and Irfan losing a lot of weight now too. He shouldn't lose all. He might need some in the government. He needs some to work hard because he'll reduce in the first year. Trust me, there are lots of hard work to do there. That's what you poll on? It's pure nonsense. Utter nonsense. That's why I'm saying this crazy poll that Chronicle and all the others talking about them, how they will win the elections, is all fake news again. So comrades, don't get sidetracked by the noise, because they're good at making a lot of noise and promises. Granger makes great speeches. He gets all these canned speeches and they mean nothing. Look at the oil and gas sector. Suddenly, the PPP is responsible for something that they did. They're taking away the blame from themselves for screwing up the industry. Let me make one thing clear tonight. The PPP has absolutely nothing to apologize for bringing the oil companies here and for Guyana finding oil and for this country to experience a potential boom in the future. We have nothing to apologize for. Had it not been for the PPP and the perseverance in the period when there was nobody who wanted to come to Guyana, nobody who wanted to explore. Shell walked away in 2014 from the block that ExxonMobil has, where they found 5 billion barrels of oil now proven reserves. They walked away from it because they thought nothing was there. Every single day we persevered, and they explored and they found oil. Now APNU is telling their supporters that the PPP wants to get its hand on oil money. That is why we want government to change. Well, we brought in the industry, but let's explore what they did as soon as they came into office. They signed an agreement secretly with one company. Although we had called the basin had been de-risked, we already knew we had 3 billion barrels of oil there at that time. They signed an agreement. Secondly, they renegotiated the ExxonMobil agreement. And we came out on the weaker end at a point in time when we knew we had 3 billion barrels of oil there. Not like the agreement of 1999 when we were basically begging people to come and explore because nobody wanted to explore. And then the first $18 million, they tried to steal it. $18 million. And they're talking about us trying to get our hands on oil money when they tried to steal the first 18 million. They have failed totally. And that is why consistently I've been saying that we will define the framework for the oil and gas industry, that we will criminalize non-disclosure of information relating to proceeds from oil companies, that we will establish an independent, impartial regulatory body, not have Granger like what we have now deciding on every policy in the industry. These are critical issues for the future. Critical issues for the future. And so, comrades, it's not that we want to get our hands on it. And today, Guyanese can expect very little to come our way, although we will be producing a ton load of oil there. A ton of oil out there, because this government does not look out for interests. In fact, on local content, foreigners are coming here now. Not that I have a problem with foreigners coming to Guyana. We want them to come and invest. But on basic things that Guyanese should be benefiting from and investing in, they're displacing them because this government doesn't look out for us. And if we continue with this, there'll be a time when lots of people will get wealthy in Guyana, and all the prime places in Guyana will go to foreigners, and we, Guyanese people, will be their gardeners alone. Not that there's a problem with gardening, but all the menial tasks will come to us, and they will enjoy all the wealth of the oil company that they produce. I've seen it happen in many parts of the world. I've traveled to Angola, I've been to Equatorial Guinea, I've been to Nigeria, I've been to Venezuela, many parts of the world. This happens. Differentiation of the population, no benefit to the locals. And with this corrupt cabal that doesn't look out for us, I'm worried if they stay there the whole year, by the time we get them out, all the prime opportunities are gone to foreign companies, even car rental companies, basic stuff, because they're not looking out for us, they're looking out for themselves. So we need an early change of government that will arrest this decline, that will ensure that the oil proceeds are used for all Guyanese, that it is used to support the other industries. We have to get mining going back because mining employs thousands of people. It's labor intensive, unlike the capital intensive oil sector. We have to get the sugar industry and those people employed again, as Irfan said, so they can provide for their families. All 30,000 workers who lost their jobs, we got to get them working once again, plus generate another set of jobs for those who are graduating, coming out of school, etc. And we can do it. We have the experience to do it, and we have the party policy guiding us, a party that has focused throughout its history on protecting Guyanese and Guyanese interests, on workers' interests. Although we are very pro-private sector, but we've ensured that our workers have done well in terms of protection. So that is why you need a change, and you need an early change, because this government doesn't look out for us. Doesn't look out for us. I think tonight I'm talking to people who have resolved in their heads. A lot of the things I'm saying to you, many of you have already internalized, resolved in your heads that we need this change. I don't need to convince you tonight. I'm just mentioning a few things that you all know already about in this country. And what they're doing is they're squandering our future. The longer they stay there, not only are we going to lose more, but they're racking up the debt. They're borrowing extensively. Everyone pointed out the taxes that we have to change back. They're taking $88 billion more out of your pockets this year in taxes. And guess what they're spending it on? Ministerial outreaches. Ministerial outreaches. So this year, they're going to spend close to $1.5 billion on ministers traveling around the country. $1.5 billion. You know the 10,000 grant that was mentioned earlier? How much it costs per year? $1.6 billion. So they took that away, but ministers can travel around and spend $1.5 billion. Look at Simona Brooms. After 3 weeks, somebody shared the information that 2 of our children got over $20 million transferred into their bank accounts from the Ministry of the Presidency. The government stayed silent. You know Simona Brooms? She's the boom out lady, walking all around the country, talking whole day, going to parties. Never silent, but she went silent. Harman went silent, their mouths disappeared. And then we kept asking, what is it for? How could you give a minister's children $20 million? So now, that's only last year and this year. That's what they got. So then we heard, without them answering, that they fired all the staff of PSM, the personnel division, and they fired the accountant. So clearly, they thought that the personnel staff or the accountant disclosed about this transfer. That's what they thought. So they fired the people instead of giving answers to us. And they fired them because I'm sure more ministers' children got the same treatment. And I'm sure that even some of these ministers got large transfers from that account to themselves. This is leaving out the salary and the other big perks that they're getting that they've doubled now. And so today I see a news story that they said that this was for scholarship to her children. So is there a policy now in this government, after they double minister's salary, after they increase the per diem for their travel, after they increase their housing allowance, after they increase the staff available to them, the number of vehicles, etc. After all of these things, is there a new policy now where ministers' children can get foreign scholarships up to $20 million, just 2 of them? And many, many Guyanese who go to apply to PSM to get 150,000 Guyana dollars paid for their scholarship at the University of Ghana. These are bright kids. These are bright kids. They get it refused. So this is the privileged class now. The privileged class. Had that happened under the PPP, and you had a scholarship that is not merit-based, that's not merit-based, then by now they would be on every TV station talking about it. But that's the thing I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about every single day. You saw what happened with Cathy Hughes. Cathy Hughes has her own company getting contracts in her own ministry. Several contracts without any tender. And she's signing the checks. She's the minister and signing the checks to pay the companies. Her own company. And yesterday, a reporter asked me, these things happen under the PPP. So I said to the reporter, you tell me of a single case in 23 years where that happened. And they can't say it. Up to now, the reporter can't say the same thing, anything to that effect, because it never happened. Wouldn't have happened. And so every single day, look at the latest one. Look at the latest one. I've been speaking about it. We informed the police. 2 Land Cruisers, Toyota Land Cruisers. You know, those vehicles probably cost maybe about, with the taxes and everything, $40 million, upwards of $40 million. They seized 2 of them in May and at Latem. Guess who we discovered that they registered the 2 vehicles in March of this year in the name of a PNC man, top PNC man, and they didn't put how he got it. So obviously GRA gave him these 2 vehicles and they backdated the registration. But we heard there are hundreds of luxury vehicles that GRA seizes, that they don't make it to the auction. They give it out to the PNC people, ministers and their families. Until now, no answer for that. When we call on the Auditor General to investigate it, they start going after the Auditor General, tackling him, although that's his constitutional duty to do. That is the corruption that we are faced with. Every single day, there is a scandal in this government. And guess what? Granger doesn't see it. He doesn't hear it. He's a good old man. Although we bring it to his attention all the time. He was the one who established the company to do the development at Durban Park. The private company was done by Granger's ministry. And 600 million is missing from that. How come he doesn't know about that? He doesn't know about anything. And that's true too. He doesn't know about anything. The country is just drifting under his leadership. It's just drifting. 5 years more of Granger would be like hell, worse than hell. An APNU supporter said to me, came to my office and said to me, you know, since these people come in office, like they're slow poisoning the country. Every day they're slow poisoning the country. Things just going from bad to worse. And that's true. Slow poisoning. We need a good dose of anti-poison serum, Irfan Ali, you know, so he can come in there, make decisions, walk around the country quickly. Irfan Ali has done more work in Cross Guyana, gone and visited more communities in the 3 months that he's been the presidential candidate that Granger did all his life in opposition and as president. And they're worried about that. You know, they're worried about where is Irfan Ali. Irfan Ali is busy working the grounds where he belongs. Not just getting your face in the papers or making meaningless speeches. He's learning about the challenges that our people face. Because when he does that, he can, from the time he sits at that desk, he would say, you know, I was in Deep South. And the people told me that the road is important. So let's focus, ensure in the budget that there is a plan to fix the road. Or I went to Enmore or to Bath Settlement. And the people spoke about some concern there. That is the kind of leaders we want. People who are in touch with the grassroots. People who, and he's young, he has the energy to do it, he has the experience to do it, everything else. And he will have our full support from the People's Progressive Party. So that's kind of leadership we need in this country. Someone who will sympathize with people, whether they support APNU, whether they support APNU or not. Whether they support the PPP or not. That's the kind of leader we need. That will look out for everyone. Whether they live in Linden or they live in Enmore. And this is what we're presenting to the people of this country. So, tonight I don't need to convince you. That's why I'm not even trying to. Because the mere fact that you are here tells a story. And it tells the story of how badly you want to see the change. And on every single ground, this government has failed. Failed Guyana, failed its people, failed their supporters, and definitely failed us. And there will be no future bright future for Guyanese, whatever the circumstances. We'll produce 10 billion barrels of oil, and with their management style, we'll be poorer after the 10 billion barrels are produced because of their management style. You need the People's Progressive Party back in action, working for people with our philosophy, our management style, etc. That is what you need. And to bring back energy to government where things are fixed. Every single day you see a minister doing things, not making excuses, not just drifting. That's what you need. And so, as I said before, we will offer that leadership. I want to thank you for being here tonight. I want you to ensure that after Tuesday, whichever way it goes, that you play your part in this. This is not just about a single individual. This is not about Irfan Ali or the PPP alone. This is about our lives, the lives of all Guyanese that is at stake here. And so you please play your role. And we expect that to happen. And if we work hard, if we remain faithful to people, if we remain committed to ensuring that their lives change to the better, the PPP will only prosper. So thank you for being here tonight, and let's go back and wait on Tuesday, and you'll hear from us on Tuesday afternoon. Thank you very much.